Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
So we're up to L'hovim Bir Hadvarim. Right? So we, so far, presented an overview using the mashal of Koyach HaMaskil. Yes, if you're listening in?
Yeah.
If you don't understand something, you should ask, okay? That the Koyach HaMaskil effectively creates seichel that consists of two parts. Of the oir, of the positive, of the idea, and the limit of the idea. Like we discussed last time, spent a lot of time on this. Amlocha has a very specific meaning, like Shabbos. And each malacha itself has a specific meaning. Like we said, to carry means specifically to carry in a certain way. And if you wear shoes, it's not called carrying. It doesn't go into category of a malach. And the koya, and this is the function of the koya hamaskil. Koyach HaMaskil is not only that which facilitates your understanding, makes it possible to understand, but actually creates the seichel itself, the svara itself, to understand.
Dafka the specific menocha is a svara, or dafka this specific menocha is a menocha?
Well, this is too broad. That for the specific malacha and malacha. That we learn out in Mishkan, and they could be broadened out. Right now, we're speaking about the fact that Shabbos, it says you should rest. And what does resting mean? Not doing the malacha. It doesn't mean that you have to stay in bed the whole day. And I'm sorry? Right, but okay, so again, so we are focusing on one aspect of it. And one is a malacha, A malacha has certain parameters. And outside of these parameters, it's not called a malacha, even though it gets you tired. And you didn't really rest. It's not called a malacha. This is the concept of, it's a moshel on this whole inyan, on the concept of how seichel works. That seichel presents an idea, and along with that, it presents the limit of how far this idea goes. And both of these together come from the Kei HaMaster. Give you another illustration. It's closer to home, simpler. You hearing? You listening, yourself?
Yeah.
If you're talking about, let's say, getting from one place to another place, from A to B, right at the start, when you begin to say, okay, I can get from A to B, you're already forming, in the idea I can get from A to B, is formed what would be the main means by which I will get there.
What would be what?
The means, what will be the method, how am I going to get there? There are roads and you can take various turns. In other words, it's not a blanket idea of getting from A to B. The thought of getting from one place to another includes right away the specific ways of getting there. And you know you're not going to get there by jumping across. There are certain limits how you can get there. And the similar inyan, this is a mashal. Avaya lekim. Avaya gives existence, its presence. But this presence is for the purpose of being present in a certain level. And at a certain level, this is the Shem Elokim that defines the level, how it should be. All right. To be continued in Mitzvah. Olahavin biur hadvarim hanal. To understand this which we just now discussed, the biur, with greater elaboration.
Yeah. So what he said is going from here to here, Shem Avaya, and the way Shem Elokim.
Mm-hmm. The lechoira in a movement. Why do we need further elaboration? Because it would seem, generally speaking, ein muvan, it's not readily understandable. Bahalei, since that called inyan Shem Elokim, the whole inyan and the purpose and the function of Shem Elokim, hu letzamtzim ulahali, it is to contract and to conceal. Ve'ich noimar, how then can we say she'einoi malim klal, that it doesn't, Yosef, that it's not malim at all. Okay, let's take that along in our mashal. Hello, Yosef. You tired?
Yeah, okay.
No, that's not good, Yosef. You can't learn like this. Come on, sit up. No, I know I can read too, right? If its inyan is to be mitzamtzim to halim, how can you say that it's not mali? So let's use it in our moshel. I think that this moshel, would help us understand this whole thing. Shem Elokim, the moshel that we use for Shem Elokim is like the roads that limit your path. You have to go this way. You can't go straight to the houses. You have to go along the road. And when the road ends, you have to turn and follow it. And the road has an end. Has an edge here and an edge there. And you can't transverse that edge, that end. You have to stay within the road, within the lane of the road. So that's mitzamtzum or malim. What is it malim? It's malim the entire open space. And it's mitzamtzum. It limits your whereabouts. And what whereabouts means? Your movements. You can go only one way, you cannot go another way. So this is mitzamtzum or malim. It conceals the other part. You can see it, right? You build a wall, you build a house. And we say at the same time that really it is not mitzamtzum or malim. It's not malim. So in our mosh, for instance, this means that even though, yes, it creates a narrow path by which you can go and get to the place where you want, but it does not eliminate the rest of the area. It only gives you a way how you can go through this area. It does not say that this is all there is. This path, nothing else exists. It reveals really the whole area, and gives you a path how to go through it. So the area is still there, the whole same area. And this is mitzamtzim malim, and gives you a path how to use that area. And if you want to get to any place in the city, to any place, it's not limiting you where you can get, but it's limiting you how you get there. So it's mitzamtzim or malim, but it's not really malim. It really reveals the entire area. On the contrary, it's a human experience. It's an interesting experience. You go into a room, and it's hard for you to surmise the size of the room, how big is the room. You start moving furniture, then you first begin to see the capacity of the room, how big the room is. It's mitzamtzim or malim, and that actually reveals the real thing. The other time I was at the convention, the Shluchim convention. They get together for the Shluchim. You go into an area, you look, it looks pretty big, but then you look around. There are more than 300 tables set up. More than 300 tables. And then there is space left over for more. That gives you an idea how big the place is. If not for the tables, you would not have the idea. The tables are actually taking up space. They're money. And they're not really money. So the Shem Elikim is the union for the Tzantzum Halim. The Eich Neme Sheina Malim Klal. How can we say that it's not Malim at all? The Eich Efsher. For how is it possible, Liyesh Shneim, that it should be both together? How can both of these things come together? Shemalim ve'einoi malim. That it conceals and at the same time it's not concealed. How can it be? Ahoyinyan yuvon al derech moshel benefesh ha'odom. This can be understood from a moshel benefesh ha'odom. Hine onu royim b'si b'mashpia u'mekab. In the interaction between the mashpia and the mekab. Kishehamekabel rochek erkoi mehamashpia. Where the mekabel is distant from the mashpia. The Makabel really thinks that he knows everything. Right, Yosef? And it takes time for him to realize that he does not know everything. Makabel rochik erke me'amashpia. His erech, his level, and his extent of understanding is very distant from that of the mashpia. Yosef. No, come on, sit down. His mind is very distant from the mashpia. K'moi chocham godel, as for example, a very wise person, a great chocham, shetzorich lahashpia seichel lemekabel koton b'seichel. To a Makabel who is small in the aspect of Seichel. Shaloi be'erech ha'mashpia. Yosef. Shaloi be'erech ha'mashpia. His Seichel is not in line in the be'erech to the mashpia. Let me discuss this a little bit. What does it mean that one seichel is loy b'yerech to someone else's seichel? If seichel is what we think of it, bechitzonius, so the only difference between one person and another could only be that one has learned more and he knows more. Because basically seichel is all logic. And one logic is similar to another logic. It's all surface. Let's say, Yosef, you have two rooms. This Beis Medrash and the other room. That's much smaller than this room. Would you say that this room is shaloi be'erech greater than the other room? The classroom? But is it shaloi be'erech? Yosef, you think it Shaloi B'Yerech?
Could be שלא יברח. I don't know.
Think.
זה היה דורות מואח. שאלה מה יכול שלא יברח. everything is יחסי.
So that's what I'm asking. What does Shaloi B'Yerech mean?
קומבי שלא יברח.
To me?
קומבי לגבי דרחבוס של בן אדם. here you feel זה לא כמו רחבוס שלא יברח.
I'm asking you simply, is this Bismedrish Shaloi B'Yerech larger than the classical? Just answer me straight. Answer straight the question. Why not? It's much larger. It's maybe at least 3-4 times the size. Why is it not Shaloi B'Yerech? The answer is that they are both measured in the same way, the same yardstick. They both measured how many tables you can put in there. How many feet are they across? That's not Shaloi B'Yerech. It's in the same erech. Erech means how you measure something. You measure the small room, you measure the large room in the very same way. How many feet across is it? Right? Hello?
Yeah.
So that's not Shaloi B'Yerech. What does Shaloi B'Yerech then mean? Obviously, Shaloi B'Yerech means when you have two things that have completely different means by which you measure it. If both are measured with the same yardstick, except it has more of it, it's not Shaloi B'Yerech. So Shaloi B'Yerech means that you measure these two things in completely different ways. What is the difference between a Chochem Godel and a Chochem Kotten? Somebody whose Seichel is very small. Shaloi B'Yerech. So let's say someone who knows the whole Torah. The Chamishi Chumshe Torah. He knows the whole Chamishi Chumshe Torah. And then there's a young child who knows one pash from the Chamishi Chumshe Torah. Then again, this is not Shaloi B'Yerech. Because what the bigger person knows is only many times the same thing what the smallest person knows. It's not Shaloi B'Yerech. Normally start going Shaloi B'Yerech. When you're talking about the Chochem Gorul, that his knowledge of the Torah is not that he knows what it says. But he knows how one pasha is interrelated with the other pasha. How you dash it from one pasha to the other. So then it's not a question of what he knows. He's talking on a different level. How you understand? It says in the Torah, three times it repeats in the Torah the din from Basa B'Cholov. Right? You learn that. Three times. So if someone knows once, the other one knows three times, so he knows three times as much as this one. But it doesn't make it Shalai B'Yerech. Shalai B'Yerech is when he understands why it says three times. Then you're dealing with something completely a different thing, a different level. Why does it repeat itself? What is it about? So you're dealing with a different level of thought. Not what you know, but what does it mean? This is a moshe in the union of Seichel being Shalei B'Yerech. So that the Chochem, the Mashpia, who is a Chochem Goru, the Esek Mashpia Seichel, who can kabel cotton. Cotton the Seichel, who is small in Seichel. Which means that the cotton thinks in term and on different level than the Mashpia, who is Mashpia the Seichel. Let's take the example of the Chabosah B'Cholov example. One who learned just one time Bosa B'Cholov in the Torah, he knows you're not allowed to. He learns a second time. He says it says twice in the Chashim. So now, if he thinks and he's a Chacham, so he has a question: why does it repeat itself? Why does it repeat itself? It's a repetition. Then he learns a third time. He says, "Oh, it repeats itself a second and third time. Why does it repeat itself three times?" There's a question. What's the point of repeating the same thing three times? Now, the Chochem Godel, who learned the whole Inyan of Basa B'Cholov, to him, this is not even a repetition. It's repeating itself in the same words, but it's not a repetition at all. It's still teaching him completely three different things. So by him, this is not even a question, why does it repeat itself? Because it's not repeating. It's really telling you something different. So they're really on different levels completely. By the one who learned it only once, he doesn't even have a question. One learns twice and three times, he has a question. Then he starts giving an answer. Oh, this is teaching this, maybe this is. Then when you learn the whole thing, then there's no repetition altogether. Because you have a completely different overview of this whole thing. There's no repetition. You understand, Yosef?
Yeah.
Hmm?
So the Chacham Gadol sees lechatchila the question is Shalai B'Yerech.
What?
Is Shalai B'Yerech the one that doesn't see the question?
No, you only listened part of it. You learned the whole thing.
These are the times. I understand the three Mishra.
What?
Understand the three people that know the Chumash.
But you only listened part of it. You didn't listen to the whole thing. I wish you listened to the whole thing. You know, the reason you didn't listen to the whole thing is because you thought you knew what was going to be said. So you stop listening. You say, oh, I know what he's going to say. Okay? So next time, okay, Yosef?
Was there another thing?
It's another thing, yeah.
Huh?
It was different than what you said, yes.
What you said?
Mm-hmm.
You said there's one that learns Chumash. He knows one parsha, then there was the one that knows all of it. And then there's something that says 3 times. There's one man that just sees that says 3 times. Does I have a question? There's a man that has a question. There's a man that has a question. He knows what it says. Was more fun?
Why doesn't he have a question? Why not?
Why? One, because he does a thing.
Because what?
Because he does a thing.
Because he doesn't think.
Another one does not question because he knows the difference.
He knows.
The difference. You know, this spoke about this in this spoke about this in and this spoke about this in.
Okay. All right, yes. Okay? So this is the pshat, that there is different erech. They're thinking on different levels. Okay? That shaloi be'erech. And what does it mean shaloi be'erech is? Mean? What does shaloi be'erech mean?
You measure in another measure, not comparable.
It's a different kind of measure. There's measuring quantity, measuring quality, and measuring depth. Different measures completely. Yosef, come on, you're a young man. Don't do this. What are you doing to yourself? Sit up straight. No. You can sit up straight. Your head can stay up. Okay? כמחוכם גודל שצורך להשפיע שכל למקבל קוטן בשכל. To מקבל who is small in שכל, שלוי בערך המשפיע. And this מקבל קוטן is שלוי בערך המשפיע. He is not in ערך. He does not think at the same level as the משפיע at all. Like we said, this מקבל, he can only think in terms of how much do I know? How many psukim did I learn? But the mashpia speaks in terms of what is the meaning of this completely different thing. So then, hine behechrech, then therefore it is imperative, it is a must. Shehamashpia yitzamtzim v'yalim etzem sichloi v'chochmosei. That the mashpia should limit and conceal his seichel and the chokhmah sheyesh b'hadovar hamuskal hahu, the chokhmah that is contained in that inyan dvar hamuskal, that seichel, that thing that is being understood. V'lo yigale loy, and he will not reveal to him, to the makabel, rak mashe be'erkoi. He must reveal to him only that which is within the measure that he can relate to. Mashe be'erkoi. Because if he should reveal to him the depth and the entire spread of his chokhmah, behadavar muskal, in this seichel, in this concept, who adds as it is in his own mind, as he understands it, Yizbalbel Chushei HaMakabel. The sense, Chushe means the sense, and the thought process of the Makabel will become confused. V'lo yuchal lekabel klal, and he will not be able to receive the Seichel at all. Okay, let's say it's somebody's teaching a child, Breishis Boro L'kim Es HaShamayim V'es HaOretz. Yosef. Breishis Boro L'kim Es HaShamayim V'es HaOretz. And the child, or the one who's beginning to learn, he needs to know the translation of the words and what it means. In the beginning, God created Shemayim V'Oretz. And the Mashpia, Yosef, is going to tell him, Breishis refers to Chochmah. And Boro means he created Yesh Me'ayin. And Elikim is Shem, this is the name of Hashem that's called Midas HaTzimtzum. And through Tzimtzum, Hashem created. Chochmah came into Tzimtzum, and that created Yesh Me'ayin. What are you talking about? He doesn't know what Chochmah is, he doesn't know what Yesh Me'ayin is, and what Tzimtzum is. First, you have to tell him the very basics. You know, the world that you see, Shemayim V'Oretz, Hashem created it. Then you have to start thinking of what does it mean Hashem created it? What does it tell us of different levels? But it right away starts talking to him in terms of creation. It means Yesh Me'ayin. And it's a godly creation, he will be completely confused. Because he only knows the Gashmis of the world. He never thought of what it means and what the world is about. He doesn't know anything of that. And therefore he will not be teaching him anything. However, what he will be teaching him, which is a very simple thing, Hashem created Shemayim V'Oretz. This which he will be teaching him is part and comes from the big chokhmah that he has, that the creation is Yesh Me'ayin. It's all coming from the same thing. But it's a very simple, low-level expression of that thought. Okay? Got it, Yosef? Okay, so this is what we're going to learn now. If he will reveal to him the way the Seichel is by him, the Makabel will not be able to receive anything. Because he doesn't think in those terms. Kiyim behechrech. It is a muchrach sheyitzamtzim v'yalem kol oimek v'richel chachmos bozeh, that the depth of his chokhmah he will conceal. V'lo yigalelei, and he will not reveal to him ki'im ha'or chitzonius me'adover muskel. Then only the external ha'ora, an external statement of this vas muskel, b'kitzur nimrotz. Kitzur nimrotz means in very sharp brevity, very brief, Yosef. Lefi Erech HaMekabel, that the Mekabel can relate to. The Mekabel can relate to when you tell him the world that you know, Yosef, was created. It wasn't always there. God created it. That's Lefi Erech HaMekabel. If you tell him of the other deeper inyanim that is involved in this, he doesn't have, it's beyond his measure. After you tell him that was created, then you can tell him, oh, there's a purpose in creation. There's a reason why it was created. Or things like that. But if he doesn't know anything about it, he only knows the physical entity, you can't start talking about purpose or anything else. And there has to be kitzur nimrat, he has to be extremely brief, because he's not used to thinking in lengthy and deep discussions. V'yav gamzois, and even that, meaning even this limited expression of his chokhmah, malbish umalim b'moshe. He further, malbish means he dresses it up. He presents it through a garment. He doesn't present the idea directly, but present it through a garment. And he conceals it in the Moshe. Taking this, saying that he malbish umalim b'moshe, he conceals it in the Moshe. What does it mean? Let's say in the context that we spoke about, Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz. He wants to explain to the child, or to the Chacham Kotan, what does it mean that Hashem created Shemayim v'ha'aretz? So he gives him a mashal. He created means just as when you speak. So the speech comes into being as you speak. Before you spoke, there was no speech. As you speak, it gets created, comes into being. So the same thing, Hashem created, it means that it came into being as Hashem created it. That means that it was a time that it wasn't there. That means it was created. So even though the way you see the world, it is here, you see it all the time here. But it had a beginning when it was first made, prior to which it wasn't there. Just like when you speak, you can be speaking a long time, but there was a time that you weren't speaking. Now you started to speak. Just to introduce the whole thing of creation. Shehamoshol hu dover zor legamri mehanimshol. The moshol is a totally strange thing from the nimshol. The nimshol is the creation of Shemayim v'Oretz, let's say in our talk. The moshel is from some activity that a person does. Therefore, the moshel is not part of the nimshal at all. V'hareihu, Yosef, v'hareihu mechase umalim al haseichel. And thus, the moshel hides, covers up the seichel. K'mei halavush mechase al eze dover. Like a garment that covers some object, something. Shehalavush nifrad min hadover hahu. Just like when you put a garment on. The garment is something separate from your body. If that which is part of your body is not a garment, garment has to be something separate. And as a matter of fact, the garment conceals your body, and you're presenting yourself through your garment. You know, underneath the garment there's the body, but that's not what you're presenting. How the body is dressed up and presented through the garment. Let's say you have an arm and you have a sleeve. The sleeve hides the arm. What does it mean? The arm has koyach, has a muscle, and it has koyach, and it has life in it. All that you're hiding. What do you see through the garment? Through the garment you only see the fact that there is an arm that can move this cup from place to place. What actually transpires, what actually happens when you do this movement, you don't see. So this lavush, this garment, hides the real process that takes place. What does it show? The chitzoni is the end result, the functional part of it. Doesn't show the real koyach, the real process. Because the real process when you move a cup from place to place, what actually happens? What happens is first you have a rotzen in the mind to move it. A rotzen, somehow you feel the cup is not in the right place. And then the seichel decides, oh, it's not in the right place, okay, so we have to make it right. Then you figure out how you make it right, where should you put it. And then you direct your hand to put it, and you move it. And then when the hand decides to move it, when you direct your hand, it's also a whole process. To stretch out your hand, pick up the cup, stretch out your hand further, and all that is part of the whole workings of how the body works. All that is concealed. All you see is it's moved. This is what happens through the garment. You got that, Yosef?
Yeah.
Good. And as far as you're concerned, when you see the arm move, you don't see the arm move. You see the sleeve move.
It's not so early.
I'm sorry?
It's not so early. You know inside there's a hand. It's not like the lavush is not so.
That's right. But it's behelem relative to, begashmi is you're not malim the hand, but the koiches, you are malim. Because if you looked at the hand, you would not just see the hand move. You would see the muscles stretch out, the veins come up. You would see a whole bunch of things happening, even begashmis. And beruchni is for sure you're hiding completely the whole koich. when the hand moves the garment, you can't tell whether it's a living hand or it's just a mechanical arm. Can't tell the difference. Right? But for the Chacham Koton, this is the only way to present to him this idea. Because he doesn't know anything about life, anything about the functions of the body. He only knows the fact that he can move the hand. The only way to present it to him is through this. Then you start developing and thinking, how does it actually happen? You understand yourself?
Yeah.
So this is the pshat that he puts it into a moshel. From Allah. So alvush nifrod me'adover hahu. The alvush is separate from the thing that it is malbish. It dresses. And it conceals on it. K'moi kein hamoshel. Similarly, when you use a moshel to explain a seichel, an idea, the moshel hu dover zor v'nifrod min hanimshel. Something that is strange, it's a separate, a completely different thing, v'nifrod, and is separate from the nimshel. Umechase al hanimshel, and it actually conceals the nimshel. Like the Alter Rebbe explains, what was the mistake of those who what is the mistake of those who cannot accept and cannot believe the union of Nisim, that Hashem is still running the world, because they look at the world as a separate thing. Why do they look at the world as a separate thing? Because they take a moshel from their own creation. They said, if I make something, then the thing becomes separate, and I'm not in control of it. So, they take that as a moshel for Rebbe's creation. Rebbe creates and becomes a separate thing, and therefore the Rebbe is not in control of it. So the moshel is mechase, conceals on the nimshel. So a moshel is a proper way to understand something, like in the case of creation. But then you have to understand the difference between the moshel and the nimshel. Otherwise, you'll be completely mistaken. Because the moshel, in fact, completely hides the real essence of the nimshel. After you understand the moshel, then you have to go back to the nimshel and say, however, the nimshel is similar, but it's a different level. It's different. The moshel has certain similarities, and that's why I brought the moshel over. But it's a completely different world, different thing. So you cannot extend the moshel completely to the nimshel, only to understand one aspect of it. What does creation mean? But the whole union, what is the result and how it actually takes place is a completely different thing. Ashtay yourself.
Yeah.
Good. So then the moshel is a strange thing to the nimshel, and totally separate. Not only that, but actually it covers the nimshel. It covers it hides the concept of the nimshel. Omnom, but however, Ali Deizeh Yitvois Behanimshal. Through this moshel, he will grasp, he will get a handle in Nimshal, V'yovin Oisei, and be able to understand the Nimshal. And it says in parentheses, how is it that to the moshel, which is completely separate and strange from the nimshal, will he come to understand the nimshal? Lihayoisoi mechuvon al hanimshal, because it is properly aligned, it is correctly representing the nimshal. Kumoil halavush shelefi erech hamelubosh. Just like a garment that is lefi erech hamelubosh, it is within the measure of the melubosh, of the one who is wearing it. If you have a garment and the sleeve is wide and long, it's not a garment. Garment has to be to your measure. So if you want to describe, let's say a human body, you want to represent a human body, you have to represent it through the moshel, through the levush. And how is it represented by the levush? Because the levush has the same measurements, at least the measurements. It doesn't have the chayas of the guf. It doesn't have the koiches of the guf. But it has the measurements. And through that, you can present the guf. And then you say, however, the guf also has chayas. It's not like the levush that's without life. It's also alive. And it has internal organs, and it has muscles, and it has blood veins, and so forth. And bones. So here the inen lefi erech in the Gashmi is the levush is lefi erech hamlubush, and here the word lefi erech means he has the external measurements. It's not bi erech to the malubush, because the malubush is a living body, and this is just a plain material. But the erech in this case means here. It has the same measurements, the Gashmis. And this is the same way, the Hamoshel Korev Elov. The Moshel is close to the Nimshal.
Go in one way.
Right, in a Moshel way, right.
Like the beggar that's going to do.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Korev Elov, the Moshel is close to him.
The tzad Gashmi, and the tzad
Right. In the case of the garment and the guf, it's tzaragashmi. And in the case of a seichel, it is the chitzonius of the seichel.
Chitzonius of the moshel is connected to the chitzonius of the nimshal.
That's right. Lozois mehamoshel yitvois v'yovin as animshal. This is why from the moshel you'll be able to grasp and understand the nimshal. To come to him from the nimshal right away, you can't, because he has no knowledge at all. He has no idea what you're talking about. It's a ruchnistic Indian. He never thought of it. Talk to him about yesh me'ayin. I don't know what you're talking about. It's a concept. But if you tell him yesh me'ayin as a moshel, let's say, like for instance, Yosef, speech that you hear. Before you spoke, you were able to speak, but the speech wasn't there. You had the ability to produce speech, right, Yosef? No, don't go away. Where are you going? Huh? Don't go away. We're almost finished. before you speak, huh? Before you speak, there was no speech. The speech is created at the time when you speak.
If we have Chachma, Bina, Da'as, this is the As, is that correct? This is internalizing. This is Da'as. Chachma, Bina, Da'as. This is Da'as. This is internalizing knowledge so that you can use it.
No, right now we're trying to understand it. Internalizing is something which you have to work on your own. Trying to understand it. So this is the mashal and the nimshal. Speech versus creation, yesh miyayin, is not the same thing at all. Because there is a thought before it, and there are the koiches by which you produce a speech. But it gives you an inkling of what we mean by yesh miyayin. Because prior to it happening, there was nothing there. Then you go on and say that in the case of Bli Yesh Miyayin, not only there was nothing there in terms of the created, but in the created there was no means, so to speak, prepared tools by which to create. Like in the case of speech, that you have all the means to produce a sound and so forth.
You take like only one aspect, like before it wasn't and now it's yes, and this is what is mekulam. All
Right.
the rest, like
Well, all the rest you have to develop, and then give more mashal. If you want to say that this is shaloi be'erech, you give another mashal, say like machshava and dibur. You have more mashalim along the way, but just the first point. Yesh miyayin, what do you mean yesh miyayin? Take a look. Something didn't exist, and it comes into existence at the time when it happens. So now you can guess the idea, this is Pshat Yesh Miyayin. At the time when it was created, that's when it came into being. It wasn't there before. You understand, Yosef?
What?
You got it?
About the speech?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you missed that.
Turgim, no?
Huh?
No, yeah.
If you want to give a mashal for Yesh Miyayin, what's meant Yesh Miyayin? So the first mashal would be, you say, that when you speak, so prior to speaking, there was no speech. The sound is created as you speak.
That's Yesh Miyayin.
Well, this is not the real Yesh Miyayin, but this is a mashal to start understanding the concept of the statement, Yesh Miyayin. It didn't exist, now it exists.
Yes, quite and so.
No, you see, you're flying like a Chochem Gadol. I'm not up to that madrega yet. You understand what I'm saying? Understand what the Rebbe is saying here. Sometimes we talk in terms of a Chochem Gadol, and we miss the Chochem Cotton level, and then you don't have the real bridge, to reach and to fully understand it. First, you have to understand it like a Chochem Cotton. Then you get to understand the Chochem Gadol. Okay? extend, Yosef, if I move my arm, there's no Bria Yesh Miyayin here. My arm was there, and I moved it, not creating anything. But when I speak, the speech is just now coming out. There was no speech in my mouth before. You're talking like a Chacham Gadol, okay? You understand what I'm saying, the difference? Yeah.
This hiding.
So what it calls in Tanya in the English translation, Creatio ex nihilo, created from something from nothing.
Right, that's right. That's the Greek rendition. So this is just to understand what a mashal and a nimshal is. Okay? This is it for today. Okay, Yosef, it was nice having you and keeping your head up in the air. How was it? It wasn't so terrible, right?